So it's really nice to see you all here. Hi, Will. I'm so glad you hadn't forgotten us in the last week or two since we confirmed this.
You have Sonic, is that how you lost your email?
Good morning, everybody.
Hi, Jerry.
Good morning, Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
I'm here as best I can unless a client calls me.
All right. So I wonder if someone can take notes. We are recording this because we got a request, particularly from John Krager, who couldn't be with us. He wanted to particularly hear from Joe and Will, as we all do, I'm sure. So it will be recorded, but it takes a lot to record, to listen to a recording. So if someone who could volunteer to take notes, that would be really helpful.
Victoria can take notes if I have a backup.
I'll be your backup.
Yay.
Thank you.
I love it. And Gregory, did you make me a co-host?
I will.
Thank you very much. All right. I want to just start with Joe and Will so that they can get on with the rest of their day if they want to. But is there anything urgent that people want to say right up at the front?
I just have that legal report, and I have to get off right now because here's Colleen calling me.
Okay. We'll see you when you get back. Yeah, so we'll get to the legal report and some of the other stuff later. Yes, Anita.
That's what I wanted to hear, legal report and or something on the TRO.
Great. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. Of course, we want Victoria to come back for it. So welcome, Will and Joe. What you're seeing here is about our usual meeting that we have every Monday morning. We've been meeting in one way or another for a long time in person for about 6 years. And our main goal is to help homeless people in Sonoma County. We do that with a lot of lobbying and testifying at public and governmental events. We do tons of information exchange at this meeting, and we try to support the homeless people who are here and the people who are here who are working on homeless issues. And I guess I could say we've all become good friends over the time we've gotten to know each other. A lot of these folks I'm looking around now have really been with us for most of 6 years. We do invite homeless people and formerly homeless people to our meetings and regularly have that in attendance. So what I'd like to know from you two, which is probably what you're going to tell me anyway, is I know you're both managers, so you have teams that you supervise or work with, but I don't know how many teams they are. I don't know how many people are in your teams. I don't know what your particular jobs are for each of them and who you report to. So a little bit of the structure and background would be really great. And then all the things you want to tell us, which we really desperately need to know.
Adrian?
Yes, Gregory, sorry.
Yeah. If there's one more thing, I just want to point out, since many of us are starting up programs, either safe parking or others, that have said to ourselves and everybody else, and we're going to have wraparound services. And both of our guests have some experience in and have been delivering some of those, what we vaguely call wraparound services and are in the county family in the first place. If there's anything they want us to know about what they have to offer and what we need to pay attention to, I'd appreciate that.
Great. And I should tell all of you who are here to Homeless Action that both of these fellows are hired by the county. They're county employees. I think you're under behavioral health department, but I'm not even sure about that. So maybe under just the larger health department. So please, whoever wants to start, just go for it.
Will, do you mind if I dive in and then I'll pass you the mic after I go over my team and spiel? Okay, great. Well, first of all, thanks everybody for the opportunity to be here. Appreciate the chance to share about what we do and learn more about homeless action as well. As Adrian mentioned, my name's Joe. I oversee a couple pieces of the IMDT, and IMDT stands for Interdepartmental Multidisciplinary Team, but its long name implies working across county departments, bringing together a lot of the safety net services across the county. And we do that in a couple different ways. So we have a weekly meeting where we bring together almost all of the county departments, everything from probation, public defender's office, behavioral health, substance use services, adult services, child services. I mean, it's really, the list is kind of, comprehensive there. I think we have about 40 to 50 partners that attend our call almost weekly. And we discuss our clients. This is kind of a case management, care coordination, wraparound service planning meeting. And the clients that are discussed there are part of our different cohorts or teams. As Adrian alluded to, we have different teams under the IMDT umbrella. And I'll talk about a couple that I help support, and Will talk about a couple that he helps lead. But that's really the kind of the general concept of the IMDT, right? Again, that we're bringing together all these county departments to provide wraparound support for those folks that are facing multiple barriers or touching multiple safety net services, as well as community services. So we work closely with, I see Tim, West County Community Services. We work closely with COTS, Catholic Charities, all our different partners, both in conducting outreach, but also in connecting people to resources and supports. So that's kind of the overarching net of the IMDT. It's in basic fundamental concepts. Again, we meet weekly as a team. We also use a database called Watson Care Manager that all of these team members can feed into and access. And that gives us kind of a centralized system where we can look at what's going on with the client at human services, at probation, et cetera, and we can kind of all get collective updates and again provide that wraparound care. So those are kind of our basic tools that we use to support folks. Again, the database and the that weekly meeting. Essentially we're conducting outreach, right? So we're connecting with folks in the community, connecting them to services and providing them support through that process. And as we mentioned, there's 4 different teams or cohorts of the IMDT. The ones that I help support, I provide kind of general administrative support, and then I also oversee our COVID team that essentially is focusing on folks that are COVID vulnerable, 65 and older, or have qualifying medical conditions. My team is essentially focusing on supporting folks they were getting folks into the non-congregate shelters. And now once the folks are there, they provide all the case management and care coordination for the folks that are there at the non-congregate shelter sites. So those are, the Windsor, Holiday Inn, Astro, you've probably heard of these. Then there's one or two other teams that they're not represented on the call today, but I'll mention them briefly. There's our whole person care team. And essentially they work to connect folks to our county mental health and behavioral health services. So folks that have a qualifying mental health condition, whether it's diagnosed or not, they work to connect, support them and connect them through the process of getting assessed and connected to mental health resources at the county. Then we have our mental health diversion team, which, as the name implies, it works closely with the courts, and they try and work with folks to divert them from jail and serving jail time. And these are folks that have mental health needs and are engaged with the court systems through and believe that diversion might be a support to connect them to mental health services rather than jail. As kind of a route there. And then finally, we have our encampment team. Can people
mute themselves?
If you're not talking, it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. And then the last team is Will's team. They work in encampments, and I'll let him talk about what they do specifically and maybe add a little bit more about Los Guilicos and some of our other resources that we utilize as well.
How many people, Joe, are on your, let's just talk about the COVID team and the.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's when we're fully staffed. We've got on my COVID team, I would have, let's see, four or five staff. Then we've got a couple other staff that kind of float in between Mills and my team that I help support. So they also do COVID work, but they're also in the encampments. And there I've got about 4 or 5 folks as well. And again, these are staff that range from SUD counselors, behavioral health clinicians, eligibility specialists to get people connected to benefits. So it's kind of a broad range of staff roles, but they're specifically trained, in those needs of the folks we're supporting. And again, yeah, the whole person care teams and the mental health diversion teams are similarly sized, probably about a handful plus or minus on those teams as well, handful of folks.
So if I could just try to visualize this for myself, it seems like you have 4 or 5 people on each cohorts, and then another 4 or 5 that sort of roam as needed through the various cohorts.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. They're known as our IMDT expansion staff, but yeah, that's exactly. They work to support. So if we're, they mainly have been focused on non-congregate shelter because we've had a couple hundred folks in these sites that are needing support, but they are also doing encampment work to support Will's team because we have a lot of encampments and a lot of outreach need as well in the community. So
now we know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you all are doing that through various means as well.
So it's about 20, 25 people altogether. And I hear some of them are not, you haven't hired for all the positions.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And then again, other departments, those are the kind of the core IMDT staff. And then other departments have kind of, committed staff. So probation has a staff member that attends weekly and supports us, and other departments have as well. So, but Will, did you want to talk more about HEART and the encampment piece? Because I think that's a critical component we want to touch base on for folks.
Yeah. Sure, of course. And I don't know if I missed this, but just to clarify one of the earlier questions. So both Joe's and my teams we're Department of Health Services. We're in the admin division, although we have primarily behavioral health employees. And we both report to Tina, is our boss. HEART team is the Homeless Encampment Assistance and Resource Team. Essentially was ultimately created out of Joe Rodota Trail and the county's response to that, and identified an enduring need for encampment outreach and support. Our primary role is encampment outreach and supporting our vulnerable homeless community members. Our secondary role is casework at Los Guilicos Village. We manage the clients out there. And also Los Guilicos sort of feeds into some permanent and leased housing options that the county owns. Just Los Guilicos at this point, stuff can always change, but we case manage and support the individuals there that are in a permanent supportive housing environment with support from Buckaloo for programming. Also, we have 15, I think it's slightly less than that with the new, it's probably closer to 12 or 13 SUD beds for residential drug treatment that we use to support our cohorts. That includes Turning Point, Helen Vine, and Hilltop. So for encampments, typically, the HEART team takes the lead, but is supported by the expansion staff who are very capable, have done a lot of work, and at times take the lead as well. Typically, we do 2 to 3 outreach episodes to encampments each week. Sometimes we hit more than one site in a day. Sometimes we focus on a particular site. Depends on, what are the priorities and community needs. We do encampment outreach to the entirety of the county. Where people get confused is the county does enforce and clear ones that are in their jurisdiction if there's sufficient public health or environmental health risk, private property concerns. So, obviously if we'll get complaints about an encampment, say, Old Stony Point Road, and, what's the county doing about this? And of course we can offer services and resources to the community, but if it's private property and city, we can't take legal enforcement action to clear it ourselves. If it's in the unincorporated jurisdiction, we can as well. And we offer whatever available shelter placements there are to help people, be it congregate shelters, which we all know have value, but there's a lot of people, a lot of trauma and a lot of lack of sort of demand, so to speak, for those. Of course, we offer Los Guilacos Village, the primary #1 role for Los Guilacos. It was created out of Joe Redota Trail to support that encampment. We still use it to support all the encampments across the county. Unfortunately, one pallet shelter we all know is woefully inadequate. That's why there've been a lot of good projects proposed and funding for indoor-outdoor parking and such. You know, my team specifically, we have a senior client support specialist, 2 alcohol and drug counselors, a mental health clinician, and we sort of have an adopted public health investigator with Alan. He doesn't report directly to me, but he sort of straddles 2 worlds and helps us out a lot. As far as wraparound services, we cover a lot for everyone. It's kind of on an as-needed basis too. The intention is that we meet with everyone, ideally a minimum of once a week for contact, and at least once a month of those should be in person with each individual. We're out in the community supporting our people. But that ratchets up or down based on client's need. If someone's working 40 hours a week, they're in transitional housing, they're saving for their, deposit on their place, maybe that person doesn't need a weekly check-in. Or if someone is thinking about suicide, they're depressed, they missed their doctor's appointment, that type of person we're definitely meeting more than once a week. So our programs are designed to be flexible to meet community and client needs. So yeah, I mean, that's a kind of a quick overview from my end as well.
Thank you. That was really concise, both of you. Just talking about the team, I'm hearing 4 or 5 people with some additional help as needed from other departments, correct? So,
correct.
And how many clients do you generally do you expect each of these staff members to handle?
From casework, I'd say right now we're if we average out across all of our teams, it's probably about 30. Would you say, Joe? Average all of them?
Yeah, I mean, average. A couple of teams are down staff, so
it's up
bearing a heavier load. Yeah, but in general, that's our goal, is no more than 30.
So 30 clients that you're fairly active with, and they might be clients who are in transitional housing. They might be clients. I guess outreach. A lot of them are already in congregate or non-congregate shelters.
Correct.
And then you pick up a few from the encampment work. Is that pretty accurate?
Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely. And we also want to support people on the back end when they get into permanent supportive housing with their voucher too. We aim to follow them. Everything is kind of right size, but the goal is to offer people, at least offer a minimum of 6 months continuity to stabilize in their new.
This is the guy I spoke to the other day. Got a meeting this morning.
Shirley,
Krieger just sent
Shirley. Okay, I think she heard me. Yeah, I want to just say that having the IMDT since Joe Redota, it's made a sea change. There has been a lot more support and help, and I just want to praise all of your staff, because to me it's made a difference. But also to point out, we have 2,000 people who are on the street, not counting any of the ones that are in the shelters, and so having 30 clients is, there's definitely limits to what you can do, and I need us to all know that, as well as to be realistic. So if you're ready, I'm going to take questions. And I
have a question, sure. Yeah. Victoria.
Okay, let's start with Gail and then Victoria.
Hi, I'm Gail. Will, you were the last person I heard speak, and I want to just address something you said. You said that the county will clear encampments if they've become a health hazard, and otherwise you try to offer wraparound services. Does the county, can you influence? Does the county ever consider offering sanitation to these encampments, porta potties and trash?
But typically the direction from, I guess executive leadership has been, the current perspective is that usually including those are kind of an informal way to informally sanction an encampment and encourage people to stay, which we want to it's a delicate balance between public sanitation, not creating sort of an attraction for it to build and create more challenges for the businesses. And there's definitely been some discussion about that, but most of the meetings I've been on and some of the sites we've worked lately is know that we're not going to provide that type of support to, provide like a porta potty or things like that. Now, we do have a partner we work with that does encampment cleanup on the background for any kind of hazardous waste and things like that. And also, any sites that we clear, we're fully cognizant and work one-to-one with this partner for inventory management for people's possessions at the campsites to make sure that they're, treated with the appropriate respect and they can access them after we leave. I actually just had an individual we supported at our great encampment reach out to access their property. And the vendor that we partner with, FS Global, is going to deliver it to this particular person because they have a disability and need accommodation. So it's, where indicated, we'll even, ideally they come by and pick it up, but in this particular case, given the disability, they're actually just going to deliver the person their property. And our obligation is to store it for 90 days in such cases.
Wow.
Thank you. Victoria.
Yes. Hi, I'm Victoria, homeless action member with lived experience. And so it is my interest to include currently homeless persons in the homeless action meeting. So today I happened to be around the homeless service center and I dropped somebody off there earlier and everything. And so I saw somebody and she yelled for me to come over. And I said, do you want to go to a homeless action meeting? She said, I can't right now because I'm waiting for a shower. But I do want to tell you, they're trying to starve us out of here. We're starving in the street. And I heard this the other day too, people just telling me they need food. So my real question was, I didn't mean to say that first. I meant to ask first if you did any assessments of needs, because I have found this helpful when I'm introducing myself to a new encampment. I'll go around and I'll say, I'm doing a needs assessment. And then I see if there's anybody we can help, But what I've been hearing a lot is about hunger. And I was wondering if those two things, are you doing assessments and what do you think about the hunger situation? And do you have any hopes of any services coming along? Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, the good questions. I can field that. So we aim to assess and offer services to any individual that's willing to work with us at any encampment we go to. And even if they don't want to work with us long-term and just want some resources and referrals and get into a certain destination, we'll still help with them too. We have 2 different forms that we typically use. And one is the types of services that you're interested in. So that can be anything from benefits to mental health to substance, legal problems, and we support with all of those areas. The other assessment is just a really open-ended, what are your individual preferences and needs for housing form, including everything from pets, accommodations needed, congregate shelter, non-congregate shelter. It was developed and it's a slightly updated, but mostly intact form of the one that was originally used to assess the needs of the Joe Rodota Trail residents. In regards to food resources, we do have a lot of food and PPE and supplies. We carry with us a lot of non-perishable food items, our outreach workers. We also have, I'm not sure what the current amount left is, a small amount of gift cards for Walmart and Safeway. And so we use those to support with those resources as well. Also, the county has some flexible encampment funds that we have to support residents currently, and a board item going for significantly more. So, on a case-by-case basis, in addition to those, if there were some cause for food at a site, we could do something. But again, we similar to the sanitation concerns with the porta potties, you know, my sense is if we were funding and bringing people 3 meals a day in terms, it would be sort of an informal sanctioning of an encampment. And my sense is our higher ups would have some concerns about that.
Thank you. Joe, just let me know if you want to poke in on any of these. Yeah, Jerry, Anita, and Kathleen. Oh, and
okay.
Kim.
Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate it. Comment and then 2 diverse questions. As to the comment for everybody on this meeting, I want to endorse the IMDT, that group meeting that meets every Wednesday morning. It's by far one of the best things that I've seen in my career. And the reason it is because of the universal release of information, not universal, but comprehensive release of information that's used. Every person who's discussed on that meeting has signed one of those. And it's just genuinely useful to save everybody's time. It feels like a long time because it's a 2-hour meeting, but we hear about what's going on and we're able to direct people to where they belong. So I would want to give my endorsement of that. My 2 questions, one is having to do with the NCS sites, notably Windsor and the trailers. What's going to happen as after December 31st or March 22nd or whatever the dates are? What are the plans for that? Are you taking any new people? Now that you've extended it to March? And then the more diverse question is anything you can tell us on the status of the health services director appointment. And I know you give us what you got as you can.
Sure, I'd be happy to jump in on those. So yeah, the NCS sites, as you mentioned, Jerry, they did get extended through March. So that's at least some reprieve. We were facing up until a couple of weeks ago, January 1st deadline. So the non-congregate shelter sites, that includes the Windsor, the trailers, all those are funded through March. As your question also alluded to, we have to come up with a transition plan, because that theoretically won't last forever, that funding. It may get extended, it may not, we don't know. They've done this kind of last minute extension several times now. So there's always hope there, but at some point we will have to move on. And that's where we're developing transition plans for all our folks.
Can you take new people now?
Well, so we are working through an existing wait list. We are not accepting new applications because of the impending closure. It's really just kind of moving somebody one place and then having them move them again, potentially. So that is being paused. But also the last time we opened up applications, we got, a flood of 50 to 75 applications. And they're working through that backlog. And we project by the time we get through it, it'll be, the end of December, early January. And, again, placing somebody for a few weeks and then moving them out is just not the most fruitful. So again, we're working on transition plans for all the folks that are there now or will come through as a part of this backed up wait list. But essentially the sites that are looking at closure as soon as FEMA funding stops would be Holiday Inn Windsor and the Astro Hotel. We don't own those sites. We use FEMA funding to operate them. And if FEMA funding went away, we would have to cease those. So that we would look to transition those folks into our other sites that we do have a longer term kind of hold on to. And those would be the Project Home Key sites, the Sebastopol Inn and Azura Hotel here in Santa Rosa. We have those longer term, they're county owned. So we're trying to shift folks over to those when spaces become available. We are also tapping into an array of vouchers that are available. We've been allotted 17 emergency housing vouchers. We are tapping into another 5 or 6 mainstream housing vouchers. We got everybody on the voucher list when that opened up. That hopefully will be fruitful for many, but if not, from there, we have to look at the other shelter and housing options. So that's everything from our congregate shelters. We own the trailers, so we'll be able to operate those potentially somewhere else. But again, we don't have a clear concrete path. There's some new safe parking and other programming coming online that potentially could be a reprieve as well. But you've asked a tough question, Jerry. And to the other question around our directors, the hiring of a new director, that's really out of Will's and my bailiwick. But I know that our leadership, the county administrator's office and the board are eagerly looking to find a replacement to make an offer to, and obviously as well address some of the dynamics around what led to the previous director backing out. So again, I don't have a ton of insight there, but I know it's a priority. And personally, I hope it's a priority. So.
All right. We have Anita, Kathleen, Tim, Gregory, and Gail. I'm thinking that we can do this until 10:30. Is that fair enough for you, Joe and Will? Can you hang around till then at least?
I think we can make it. Sure. Yeah. We'll do our best. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just ask everybody to be concise because we want to get through everybody's questions.
I'll do the best as well.
Yeah, thank you. But you're doing great.
You're doing very well.
Thank you.
Anita, you're next.
Well, we had a discussion last week about how does one get a client into the access team. And my follow-up on that is, if they're in access, that means they have a mental health condition, and therefore they would be mandated to get into housing according to the Welfare and Institution Code and Article 25. Is that not right?
Well, there's a big step between accessing mental health services and kind of mandating into residential care. Yeah. So, but you're correct. So the county mental health system, the front door is called access. So folks, there's a few ways folks can get connected there. There's a phone number. Folks can make an appointment to get an assessment. But again, we have a cohort on the IMDT known as whole person care. And that is their main focus, is to get folks connected to the county mental health services, help them navigate that process. Now, the nuance there is folks have to be proactive and want to engage in that, right? So this is not a mandated process. Folks willingly need to and want to partake in assessments and conversations with clinicians and that sort of thing. I think what you're referencing around some of those state statutes and codes is those are more mandated crisis residential services. And those have a much higher threshold of, not being able to care for yourself, being a danger to yourself or others, and similar types of things that you'd have to meet those thresholds in order to be placed involuntarily into those circumstances. And Will actually has that clinical background and could probably opine a little bit more about what those are. But that there's definitely some distinctions there. The access is more kind of voluntary, proactive participation, and then there's the more higher level of institutional care.
You don't happen to have the access phone number on you right now, do you?
I can pull it up and share it in just a moment. Yeah.
And does that mean that as a outreach worker, you could do an APS report?
Absolutely.
Yes.
We can and we do.
They would make that decision as to whether or not they should be in access?
Well, it's a complicated question. So any of our outreach workers and presumably adult protective services as well would assess someone for suitability for access behavioral health, Sonoma County behavioral health. And in our case, we directly support those referrals. So now APS would be more, do they meet sort of disability criteria for like self-neglect, I would say would be the main one we see that way. Our mental health workers, we have usually 3, although right now we have 1 and myself that can do the assessments for danger to self, danger to others, or grave disability and right psych holds, which is one pathway into the system of the involuntary way. Now, if we're talking like mandated Institute of Mental Disease, conservatees, and things like that, that's a very expensive and restrictive solution that the county tries to avoid. Although, you know, we do on the front end support the process if someone is so impaired over a significant period of times that they can't care for themselves. We're sort of the front door to advocacy, but there's other county teams that do the service support for the conservatees. In particular, transitional recovery team is the big one that does that casework. And those facilities are all over the state.
Yeah, and Reagan said that he would make sure the community was taking care of our mental health patients. So anyone that's in access is entitled to housing?
Yeah, housing is very, very limited in the behavioral health system. Although there are some facilities, both that require some funding and not, for ongoing institutional care, even independent to those conservative type facilities. Places like a Step Up, Opportunity House have some bandwidth to support people as well. Usually behavioral health has some Buckaloo programs that have housing as well, with supportive housing on site as well.
But it's sorely, yeah, there's not enough.
Oh,
We've got a
absolutely
lot
not.
of mental health
Absolutely,
patients
yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
And so the county is breaking the law against the Welfare and Institution Code.
Well, I'm not gonna, you know, as a non-attorney, it's outside my scope to opine on legal matters. So I'm not gonna get into that. I definitely don't have a law degree. But I do know that those care facilities and
Joe is
housing
laughing.
are both on the radar, and also that I think there's some Measure O dollars earmarked for some of those options as well. So
Yeah, I was going to say I'm no attorney either, but I do know that the crisis residential units, the program will be coming online soon, which will help alleviate some of these needs. It's, you know, provides a transition, I think, as we mentioned, from the immediate crisis unit, as opposed to releasing folks back onto the street. It gives folks a transitionary place and period to hopefully stabilize. So I think that's coming online in the new year. I don't remember how many beds, but it's, you know.
Are you talking about the PUF? Because crisis residential unit is operating in 24 hours up to 30 days.
Yes, sorry, I'm mixing up my sites and my units. Yes, so yes, this is a psychiatric facilities that will be coming online.
You know, I think the mental health issues.
You now have also Aurora Hospital, no?
Aurora's still an option, but it's not a facility for people to live in. It's a treatment facility. So it's kind of our local psych hospital type option for people needing inpatient treatment.
So Anita, I think we should move on. I think we could have a whole session with these two about mental health, and maybe I would like to do that at some point. It's complicated, obviously. And yes, but Kathleen, your turn.
Yes, thank you. So with all due respect to Will and Joe, I've seen a lot of really fine work on the part of IMDT, especially I was close at hand when the second Redota Trail, the big one, was evacuated. And nonetheless, the fact of the matter is, by the way, I've been with Homeless Action for some years, and I am a newly appointed member of the Human Rights Commission. And what we have seen over the years, now this is not you're on the hot seat for those who are making the policy. So those higher ups have created and sustained a failed policy, and it's not changing significantly. When we're talking about starving people, or we're not starving, we're talking about depriving people of basic human needs. They'll take care of themselves one way or the other, and we pay the cleanup fees. This is idiocy. It's absolutely stupid. We need transitional places that are safe, with hygiene and services for people to go until permanent supportive housing is available. That is going to be many years. And we're still diddling around how after all these years with one safe parking spot and one maybe cooperative arrangement with Santa Rosa City. The fact of the matter is that the cleanup, the emergency situation that arises from lack of sanitation is more critical than whatever they're talking about, and usually making up, because encampments are typically not swept until there's great public outrage. That's the catalyst for a sweep. It's not supposedly dangerous situations or health, but the health crisis that is created by the very nature of the policy is something that is abhorrent to me. We need safe places for people to be until permanent housing is available, period. We have 2,000 people approximately on the streets and about 1,000 or a few more spaces for them to be. That's just a fact. And that nobody is looking at it and doing what needs to be done. So please pass this along to your supervisors.
Thank you, Kathleen. Tim.
Yes, thank you. Wait, did you want to answer something?
No, she just.
Excuse me, Kathleen, I didn't get that. You're going to have to give me that question later. Thank you.
Question on, I just wondered if you guys could give us just a brief update on the ACS, number of beds, full number of beds available, and any thoughts on closing that at all. And second, you mentioned whole person care, but my understanding is whole person care is being downsized. I believe our agency is losing 2 positions. I may be a little bit out of date on that. So if you could give an update on that, I'd appreciate it.
And Tim, did you ask about NCS?
No, the ACS.
What is the ACS?
ACS is the alternate care site. It's kind of the front door. So if folks are either COVID positive and don't have a place to stay, or if they are going into the non-congregate shelters, the NCS sites, they will go to ACS first, get tested and cleared, and isolate if they are positive. So that is the one that's operating at Best Western in Healdsburg. That site will be shutting down in about 2 weeks. They're 2.5 weeks. They are transitioning though to a new site, is my understanding. As with everything, it's last minute. Contracts are, probably being inked as we speak, if not, sometime soon. Right. So I can't really disclose all the details there, but my understanding is that there's plans to find an alternate site for the duration of, through March, as these other sites are operating.
Okay. So the ACS will remain, but the thought is it will just move to a different site.
It will be at a different site. It'll likely scale back, right? I mean, I think now part of the issue is that we've reserved like a capacity of 50 rooms, and we're not using that capacity. So we need to kind of scale back some of that cost and underutilization.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then on whole person care?
Yeah, so again, that's not my program directly. Desiree Olstrom manages it, so I can connect with her for more details. But my understanding is, yes, there is change coming down in terms of, what is funded directly by whole person care. But this is all through what's known as CalAIM. There's some new funding mechanism coming through the state. But the theory is, and again, all of this is last minute changing. We still don't have any contracts or full-fleshed details from the state, but theoretically, is services that are currently funded through whole person care in the county would be funded through Partnership Health as supportive. There's opportunities to fund housing navigation, case management services. A couple different. Actually, it kind of broadens, from my understanding, some of the services options that can be funded there. Unfortunately, it's as I said, it's not very clear, and some positions may need to change both internally at the county and, as you're alluding to, Tim, and some of our contracted partners. But my belief is that though providers won't contract directly with whole person care, there is that opportunity to either bill through Medi-Cal or Partnership Health for some of those services as a contracted provider under CalAIM. So I'll definitely connect with Desiree and make sure we get you looped in, Tim. And
yeah, if you wouldn't mind sending me that also, Joe, so I can send it to the rest of the group. I think that the biggest question we would have is there going to be, things will change, I'm hearing that, but is there going to be a downsizing or not? That's the crucial question we have.
Yeah, my understanding is all the folks that are currently enrolled in whole person care are going to continue. So they're not going to be trimming any of the current client caseloads. They may have to throttle back some of the intake and potentially pivot some of their focus in terms of target population, because Partnership Health, this whole requirement, this whole funding mechanism requires that you take referrals from Partnership Health. So it's kind of a different, it's a square peg round hole type of situation where they're, so we're not quite sure how that's going to shake out in terms of people accessing and connecting to care. So a lot of that still needs to be sorted out. But again, for the kind of transition period early in the new year, the county is buffering any staffing and funding supposedly to help in that transition. So at least, you know, the first month or two.
That's good. So we still have 3 people who want to ask questions here. We got 10 minutes. Gregory, Gail, and Ludmilla.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. This is more of an advocacy for mutual and collaborative planning. As you've heard, and you know, things start, things stop. You all work within restraints on past funding source regulations. There are lots more, as you noted, new opportunities for collaboration among the safe parking and alternate sites. And at the same time, you're trying to manage the ones that are funded by FEMA. What I'm suggesting is, and it really probably is going to depend on your new director, I'd like you to advocate within your system for a broader planning process for the use of, and you know, ARPA's coming down, best, you know, Build Back Better is coming to augment things. The community needs to be more of a participant in your planning process, both to help us understand stuff and to be able to better partner with you. And that's the pitch I want to make to you, to make to your bosses, in order to be able to have it not be dependent on meetings like this for us to learn about stuff, and you not be able to take advantage of the things that aren't directly under your control, but should be collaborating with you. That's all.
Thank you, Gregory.
Yep, thank you.
Gail?
Yes, please. Mine is more of a comment than a question. I really appreciate you sharing all that you have with us today. I want to just step on to the comments that Kathleen made, or step up from them, or, you know, go off from them. We have a huge number of teams and departments and a lot of people working to house a very few people. We don't have enough housing. Everybody knows that we don't have enough housing. And so you have access to ears that I don't have access to. And I just want to invite you to, when you have an opportunity, to comment. So most of our discussion today has not been about this, but it should be, to comment that we need to have sanctioned encampments, sanctioned parking for cars, and do a step up approach, because stability and routine and community are healthful for people. So we are hurting people when we move them from this December 31st deadline to that March something deadline. Those are very hurtful processes. So if we would save so much money if we could provide a porta potty and trash collection on a field or a lot somewhere where people could camp until we can get them into housing. We could provide services for them there. And this is looked down upon. However, we're not doing any better. So just wanted to ask you to keep that in mind. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Gail.
Great comment.
Ludmilla?
Hi, good morning. Will and Joe, thank you so much for being here. This is like incredibly incredibly informative, and I really appreciate all the information and all the things that you're doing to kind of keep to manage the areas and the people that you manage. I want to talk about the homes and trash thing. I'm curious. You're saying, you know, that the direction from the leadership is that you not provide bathrooms or trash disposal at unofficial encampments. Who is directing you to do that or to not do that?
So I'm talking about trash as mostly fielding from the porta potty standpoint. You know, I assume waste disposal could go, you know, via normal mechanisms. As in regards to porta potties, it's been at various encampments we've worked, and yes, and we do absolutely take the feedback from community members, be they residents of campsites, partners, community members, to Tina, and of course give our perspective as well. The porta potty thing has been brought up several times and visited, most recently in regards to the Grayton encampment that we worked, and the decision from leadership, and even in public comment meetings. Honestly, the board meetings and stuff that I've attended, seems like it's kind of split close to 50-50, some in favor of porta potties and some not. You hear it from both sides. And the perspective of ours coming down from the director is that we're not doing that at encampments we're working at this time. Obviously, needs can change. We assess each encampment on a case-by-case basis. Everyone's different. And we all know the homeless community is very diverse with diverse needs, and there's no singular solution. So I wouldn't rule it out as something that would never happen, but it's not a direction that executive leadership has gone in the time that I've been here. And that's the way the wind is blowing from what I can tell.
And when you say Tina, well, I suspect you are also talking about the Board of Supervisors, who are her boss.
Of course, yes,
of course.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
And, you know, I also want to mention there's, you know, funding dynamics behind this. I mean, all of these pieces of these puzzles require funding mechanisms. And, you know, I recognize the county has funds, but also there needs to be commitment across, you know, various fronts and processes. I do want to shine light, you know, the county has made a change in policy around safe parking and some of these other types of planning. You know, 2 years ago, they were not acceptable policy, and now the county is funding them and looking to add programming, and I'm hoping expanding further beyond that what's available now. But I think that change in perspective is important to note, because, you know, who knows what may come down the line upon further, you know, advocacy and communication and such. So that's why I think groups like yours and lived experience groups and others are important in, you know, helping inform policy and advocacy.
Carrie, are you there?
I'm sorry. I had a.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was just the first question I wanted to get a clear answer to, if you don't mind, Adrienne. Okay, thank you for that. And so yeah, so when you're saying the 50-50 public response at the board, you're talking about the Board of Supervisor meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's been my perspective at any kind of like homeless city, North region, West region, or the Board of Soups meetings that I've attended. My perception has been that, I'm not saying it's exactly 50-50, but I've seen people weigh in on both sides. Sometimes business members are like, you know, no, and some people are like, yes, compassionate grounds. So there's definitely there's no consensus that I'm aware of in any meetings I've attended.
Yeah. So but I'm just kind of wondering where this is being heard. So I'm hearing Board of Supervisors, and you're saying that there's other community meetings that the community is split on both ways. I'm just kind of curious where the discussion is being heard.
Yes, so like occasionally there'll be I guess like a North County homeless meeting with like some city reps and community members and some of the CBOs, and we'll be there, those types of meetings. And I think a lot of times one of the board staff or a board aide attends, and those are some of the discussions I'm referencing.
The board. Okay. Okay. So what I'm seeing out there in the county, okay, and I am one of the current lived experience representatives on the Continuum of Care Board. What I am seeing out there is that when people in an unofficial encampment that are just kind of found a spot to stay, that they do want to have a bathroom available, and they want to have trash, and if those were available, they would be using them. Some people are willing to even sort their trash, have it be recyclables and other stuff, you know, and trash. And they would prefer to be putting their trash in there, or there are people in the camp who help kind of take care of others. Some people are more capable of taking care of their stuff than others. What I am seeing from the public, when the public goes, oh, we don't want these homeless people out there, is that that what they most object to is the threat of human waste being, you know, scattered around the landscape, and trash being left. Oh, those people are so dirty, they're leaving trash, they're shitting in the woods. The policy of the county to continually not allow basic hygiene items like a porta potty and a place to put trash is what is causing that the majority of people to have to seek alternate solutions. You know, when you gotta go, you gotta go, you know, and if the only and what I see is that really further degrades people. It basically forces a criminal kind of a non optimum solution to the. Anyways, what it kind of in my experience of mental health and mental health issues, I see that there's mental health issues that are from a chronic thing. It can be something somebody is born with. They can be born, kind of damaged or alternate functioning. There are mental health issues that can come from a current, like a way a conversation is going where they get triggered and they act out. That's an area that's actually being handled really, really well by most people who have become trained in not escalating something that they don't need to.
Sure, they put them in jail.
Yeah, So there's things being done to address that. But there's mental health issues that really come from kind of chronic continuing stress or kind of current resolvable stresses like food, sleep, and biggest thing is being welcomed, being valued. One of the core values that many people have is the sense that they are making a difference, that their existence that they're able to make a difference in the world and in life. And when people are not listened to, they're not heard, and they're not allowed to make a difference. They're not allowed to clean up their own trash. They're not allowed to go and use a porta potty versus having to do something else. That is such a slap in the face as far as one's potential and what could be offered. And I'm going to say I've personally experienced that. Okay. And that is something that on a very deep level, I found personally, like when I encountered about a week of that, or, I encountered a month of that, it would take me about three months to recover from the upset and the disempowerment that, that person denying me those resources. And it, it kind of came in other situations as well, but I'm kind of picking on the bathroom and the trash thing as a solvable thing that, is common. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, really, as far as a community, as far as over the county, what I see is that bathrooms and trash facilities are something that is of even greater benefit to the surrounding community and as far as cost effectiveness, it's easier to have the things that go in those receptacles contained in those receptacles, and then to clean it up afterwards. So if there is a group of people, for whatever reason, whether it's for a festival, whether it's the tourist season, or whether it's a homeless encampment, there should be a restroom available in that vicinity that people can go to. There should be a trash thing and a recycling bin that people can put their trash into. And if you get that, you're going to get more people cleaning up their own trash. And you're not going to have this horrific PR thing that then the community can use and go, oh, look at those homeless people. Look at how much trash they left behind. You know?
Okay.
Thank you.
We're after 10:30, but I really wanted, obviously, Will and Joe, you kind of trigger us when you repeat, and I don't know how much you agree with this or not, but this philosophy that if you give people basic human services, then it attracts more people and makes more trouble, blah, blah, blah. I've heard this from many politicians, and it's very prevalent in the county, but we obviously disagree. And I wanted you to hear how deep and strong this is. And so I appreciate you being here. I appreciate tons and tons of all the information. The one question I really still have is, if I see someone who is suffering, who needs help, is there any way I can get them help through this system? Who do I call? Is there an answer to that?
Yes. So yeah, you can, I'll put our contact information. There's a phone number people can call. We have an email address. Obviously, if not everybody has phone and email. So if you come across somebody who needs help, you're welcome to send us an email and say, hey, there's a person on X street or an encampment on X street or whatever it might be. And we can try and do some follow-up, as much descriptive information as you can provide, but that's helpful.
Great. That's very helpful.
Did you put the access number? Did you put the access number?
I think the access number is in the chat at this point.
Sure.
Yes, it is. Well, the mental health 24-hour access line is in the chat. And I want to thank all of you who've been chatting, because there's a lot of information, a lot of thoughts and feelings going around.
Before we go, is this 1302 number a 24/7, or is it office hours?
No, that's generally office hours.
What are we going to do at nighttime when an emergency arises and somebody needs help?
Depends on what the emergency is, right? It's case by case. So the website is intended to be a public facing, anyone can use, be they consumers, partners, and the website, phone and email reaches 4 managers for all our cohorts, our office assistant, and some of our line staff. And that helps us triage to, where it makes sense for the referral to go, because not everyone knows. If someone's 67, they have heart failure, they would go to the COVID team. If someone is has maybe, they need help with a campsite, it's a business, they have some questions, they might go more my way. Now, it really depends on what the specific after hours need is. If it's a crime, it needs to go to law enforcement. If it's a mental health emergency, Jerry's sharing some of the info in there as well. And we do have some support trained staff that can respond to certain emergent mental health situations, but that's not the primary role of our team. And our team is not funded to do 24-hour coverage. But if you had some specific scenarios, we could venture how to field them. But we do not staff caseworkers after hours. If that's something that you're interested in seeing, I'd invite you to share that with the board. But, my thoughts are that would be at an immense cost to the community.
Well, I have a burning desire to ask.
Thank you. And I really do hope you'll come back. I think we've got a good overview, but this is such a complex.
Adrian?
Yes, Victoria.
I have a burning desire, if I could just say one thing. If I could ask, we do have other service providers who attend homeless action meetings, whether as members or attendees, for information only. And I would like to, I don't know if the group agrees with me, but I would like to invite you to join us and have a liaison to come over to our meetings on Monday mornings and share information.
Yeah, we can look into that. I mentioned earlier we're a little bit short-staffed at the moment, so we might have to work through some transition there. But at the very least, if not regularly, we can try and have kind of a semi-frequent or semi-regular.
We'll try to be nice. We'll try to be nice.
Oh, please! You've all been gracious hosts, and we don't disagree with everything folks have been saying. So we appreciate the feedback.
I think that anyone who is directly involved with homeless people has to see the suffering, and I just can't imagine that your hearts are there. And we all work within the systems we work in. But thank you, Victoria, for this idea. It would be great to have a regular liaison process with you all.
Yeah, we can definitely look into that and work on that. Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
And real quick, we do absolutely support people's ability to advocate, be it to the board, through us, in regards to differing views, sanitation and things, and whether or not we as personal individuals agree with the county's jurisdiction or county's decisions. Of course, we're agents of the county and we have to represent the county and such things. I would say just, for me personally, I believe in supporting the trauma and dignity and rights of individuals. I think most of us wouldn't be in this industry if we didn't. And, have background and training as a therapist. And my personal and professional opinion is that, unfortunately, if we're talking homeless women and trauma, it's about 100%, whether or not it's PTSD, everyone, and men probably pretty darn close to the same. And it's unfortunate, but that's why we have behavioral health staff out there. We don't have probation officers out there. We're here to support that dignity and those rights.
And I really appreciate that you do not go out with the police all the time. I think that's a huge help. And Gregory, one more thing, we're 10 minutes over now. So
it's a broken record, but I just want Will and Joe to understand that we know how hard it is to work within limited funds and restrictions by funding source. As you know, I'm on the group trying to give away $76 million worth of ARPA money, and I'm also very much interested in Build Back Better. We will be there to help you expand services and work more with the community. Staffing shouldn't be a problem. We're going to be trying to build collaboration. So keep your mind open to how you can, from the inside, try to facilitate our working together.
Thank you. So I think we can let you go now. I see that there are many more things we want to say, including me, but we promised 10:30 and you didn't even offer the whole hour. So just want to thank you for your generosity and hope we didn't crash up your day too much.
No, it's been a pleasure. And
and thank you. And the reason I asked was to see how I can help get you support. I understand where you're coming from personally. And I just think that there's people in the community that don't understand that we're asking for those things to help the community health. You know what I mean? It's to help them even more. I'll keep working on it.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye. So let's turn our attention to a couple other things. I know Victoria said she had a legal update. I want to talk to you about the SAVES work in Sebastopol, and I guess I'll give you a little report about SAVES. Is there anything else?
I think we ought to take a vote first on TRO.
I'm sorry?
I think we ought to take a vote first on TRO.
Well,
are we supporting the attorneys to go on the 17th? Are we going to support that so we can get another restraining order?
Are we raising our hands to get in line here for talking?
No, I spoke up instead because it was skipped. Adrian skipped it.
So I will put it on to be talked about for sure.
Well, I want to take a vote.
Wants to a topic before we leave here. I have the
same. All those folks out there living in tents are going to be swept on 31st. Unless we get a TRO, another restraining order.
I think that might be what Victoria is going to talk about when she says a legal update, Anita.
Let's go to Victoria then.
Huh?
Let's go to Victoria then.
Let's do that. Are you there, Victoria?
Hi, I'm Victoria. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm an alcoholic. Never mind. Wrong meeting. Sorry. Anyway, yes, the legal report. Now, we remember back when, almost a couple of years ago already, at 2 a.m, when about 4 or 5 officers went to Doyle Park with their night vision equipment and came upon more than 7 people in Doyle Park after hours. Now, all these people have been processed. So we call the Doyle Park 7 when we started the case. Now, each individual has been processed as an individual because it's a criminal case. So we're talking about individual rights being at risk in terms of what happened that day was that the police took all the campers, 7 of them, to jail at 2 a.m. Didn't release them until way later in the morning. So, you know, they didn't have to do that. They could have just cited them. But this is the way the police work outside the system to punish and be judge, jury, and executioner on the homeless to harass them enough to get them away from places they don't want them at. But anyway, so as time went on, you know, some people got additional charges for different things and everything, and it complicated the case. But we dealt with them one by one. One client turned coat on us and went to the public defender, which was okay, except she saw us as not doing our duty, which was kind of embarrassing, but it was okay because she never cooperated with us in meeting and planning strategy. That's Kathleen Posey. She was still there at the time. But anyway, this person has now made amends with me. And so everybody's cool out there in terms of our services. But the one last person had an appointment this morning with coordinated entry, because that was the only thing he had to do to resolve his case and a bunch of other things that had added up behind that. So this is a great service that Colleen pulled through and stayed with it all this time during COVID and the fires and all the delays. So, you know, I'm sure the police are aware of what happened, but it wasn't something that made a big spectacle. Now, does anybody have anything they want to say about that before I go on to the TRO?
No,
okay.
Congratulations.
The TRO. Huh?
Congratulations.
Hey? Thank you. I'll tell Colleen, and she's very appreciative of the support that she's gotten from Homeless Action. Now, I just spoke to her a minute ago, and I told her I was going to give this report. And I told her that we were probably going to want to meet with her regarding the TRO for Northern Santa Rosa. She said that she's been having to deal with Thomas a lot. And I said, well, Thomas is no longer with Homeless Action. So if you want to tell him that you're working with Homeless Action on this issue, that would be fine. So anyway, I'm probably going to go see her later and see, you know, if there's anything she wants me to do for the 17th. The 17th, now, if anybody wants to attend, I'm going to get the information from Colleen on how to get onto the Zoom for the federal court evidentiary hearing. But this is going to be where, since the county wants to lift the restraining order, they are going to present evidence that there is shelter available for people. Put on witnesses and say, yeah, there's There's places for people over there at Mary Isaacs, etc. And we're going to put on people that say, well, what happened when you went? You know, did you get a place, etc.
I see that going on. And I see where they're.
All right, thank you. So this is what Anita brought up, the hearing about the TRO. Anita was asking if we were supporting it. We have been supporting this from the beginning of it, and we haven't stopped. Kathleen, did you want to speak on this? Go ahead.
Oh, there we go. I keep hearing December 17th and December 31st. And are we confusing the TRO steamers landing with the terms of the injunction?
Well, they're two separate things.
Exactly. So that's why in this conversation, both the 31st and the 17th have been mentioned. Anita, what are you talking about specifically here?
It was my understanding that when they go on the 17th, they're going to be supporting Steamer Gold Landing for the TRO. Okay, that's to stop the police from sweeping. So and that kind of an injunction will, and maybe I'm using the wrong word, that kind of injunction will affect the whole Sonoma County, because you can see the police going out there to like Roberts Lake and sweeping all those tents. You could see that happening after the 31st if we do not put our name on the injunction as homeless action. Isn't that right? That's why Adrian said she didn't want to be on it because she got funding from Sonoma County.
I'm sorry, I was accidentally cut off.
Okay, is that, am I understanding right, Kathleen?
Well, when you're referring to the 31st, I mean, I don't know what the terms of the TRO are. If there's an end date, but there is apparently a court date coming up on the 17th. The injunction is a different matter, and it is in effect until December 31st. However, we're hoping to mediate that prior to that date. So I don't think that we're looking at the wholesale eviction because of everybody in the county, because they can't handle it that anyway. It's too much for them to think about one at a time.
The county can't handle it?
Yeah, there's not enough beds.
The police are going to handle it. They're going to go out and sweep everyone if we do not stand behind this TRO, which is what exactly what.
Okay, where did I get cut off at? At what point did I get cut off?
No, we heard you, Victoria. I think we heard everything you said.
Kathleen wanted a clarification on the difference between the TRO and what was the other thing, Kathleen?
The injunction.
The injunction.
Whether they were being confused, right? But I don't think the police care if homeless action supports the TRO in Petaluma or not. I don't think they care, but that's just, you don't know and I don't know. Let's try to deal with facts.
Well,
no, rural legal assistance wouldn't go.
Anita, I would like
you
to
ahead.
Let other people.
All right, go ahead.
So we're talking right now about the TRO process. Okay, that's coming up in a federal hearing, a federal court hearing.
Go.
Gail, and then Jerry, and then Gregory.
No, we want to hear.
Okay, TRO is the same as an injunction.
TRO.
So
they're the same.
It's my understanding that originally Adrian said because she works for SAVES, she can't be the one that's going to meetings on the injunction about the Joe Rodota Trail, and that one that's been going on for years and the one that is still going on. But this, we're talking now about Steamer Landing, and I wonder if your question is homeless action as an agency, as a group supporting that hearing or that effort?
Yes, we have already.
All
But we're
right.
not going to anymore because Adrian can't do it.
No, Anita, no, that's not true.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if you could
I
just
stand
listen a
corrected.
little bit, this will get clarified for you, I believe. Jerry and then Gregory.
No, Gregory first.
Gregory.
I can see where Anita might be confused. This is a little confusing, but I don't think the judge in the case on the 17th is being asked to or has any authority to do anything other than either lift or continue the TRO for steamer landing.
Right.
Not everywhere in the county. That is not a part of the case, and it's not in his jurisdiction. The question is two parts. One is on the 31st, our own years-long struggle is going to be tested as to whether or not it gets settled or not. Secondly, and independently, there'll be a judge ruling on whether or not the steamer lane landing continues. Homeless Action is in support of both of them. We have lawyers we're trying to get. Colleen in the case of steamer landing, the CRLA and the others in the case of the whole county. But I think it's totally misrepresentational to say that either Adrian has anything to do with either of them. She is head of this group and this group is supporting both. I was at the meeting long ago when we sort of told the county we'd shut up in belittling them if we wanted to keep the contract we had with the county. Barbie's gone and the county isn't holding us responsible for shutting up or not.
All right. Jerry.
So I agree, Gregory. As a matter of practice and as a matter of policy, if Homeless Action intends to take a position one way or another on a thing such as this, we need to see the actual written document and to see what we're proposing. You know, this came up 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said that was my position. We can't just take a position based on verbiage that we hear in this meeting because it's often not complete just by the nature of how we remember things. So please, if anytime you say you want to take a vote on something, we should have had the opportunity to thoroughly review it prior to taking any sort of a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. I
So
agree.
do you want me to get a copy of the moving papers? Do you want me to get a copy of the moving papers on the steamer landing?
Yeah, that would be sufficient because then we can have the consideration that we need to have.
But I think they need to know now, so we can't wait until.
Kathleen, you're
They
next.
know we support them.
Okay, let's not interrupt, please. So my question is this. On the injunction, the federal injunction that we have, Homeless Action is listed as a plaintiff, as one of the plaintiffs. Now, is Homeless Action also a plaintiff in the TRO that Victoria and Colleen has been working on? I don't think so.
No.
Thank you.
No.
And that's because
we support it, but we are not plaintiffs in the case. Unlike the injunction where we are plaintiffs. And this case will go to mediation next week.
All right. I'm sorry to keep muting Anita. I know she's feeling really passionate here and we have a very limited time, 4 minutes. And I really need to tell you what's going on in Sebastopol and get some support. So I apologize. I hope we can work on this problem, throughout the week and get you some satisfaction, Anita. So about Sebastopol, I think you all know that.
You don't want us to take a vote. That's why you're interrupting.
Nobody's made a motion to call the question on.
Nobody's got any information to make a motion on.
Yeah, I think we should take a vote.
No.
There's nothing to vote on.
Yeah, are we going to be a part of the proceeding on the 17th? Are we going to support them by putting our names on the form? Why not? Because I've been in this meeting for 7 years. Okay, and they moved our encampment and they haven't built any buildings back there. They moved our encampment. All these people in tents are going to be swept.
let me go back to Victoria on this. Victoria, I understand that there is support for this injunction, this TRO hearing from lawyers. Do you think the lawyers want a homeless action to be a plaintiff or a party to this effort at the court system?
Too late.
It's too late.
Well, they haven't asked us. They have a representative of homeless persons by Rob Powelson of the California Tenants Union that was instrumental in organizing the TRO. And so I think that us being supportive in general of both the Tenants Union and the attorneys, which is also Alicia, not just Colleen, but this support is very much appreciated by them. And I think it's keeping doors open for us to discuss other litigation possibilities.
So Victoria,
yes, I'm going to bring it up to Colleen.
Would you go to Alicia and Colleen, the attorneys, ask them if having homeless action be a party to this effort on the 17th would be helpful? And if they want us to come in on it on some level, and what timing is. So we might have to have a special meeting about it or something, but let's see if the attorneys want our support and think it would be useful. That's the first step to me. Okay.
Well, at this time, I think they are struggling to prepare for the hearing on the 17th. This is a civil procedure question that the parties are usually determined in the beginning of the action. And I don't see how we have, I don't see the connection, but I'll talk with them about it to see if we can develop some sort of a legal theory behind the necessity.
Well, just ask them if we can be helpful. And if we can, let us know. Don't do a whole lot of work.
I'll tell them to let us know how we can be helpful.
Yes, that would be good. All right,
Thanks.
Kathleen?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, this case is established, the TRO is established with plaintiffs and defendants, and homeless action cannot vote itself in as the plaintiff in the case. That's not possible. So that's what
Anita, a motion has to be made.
Pardon?
The lawyers have to make a motion. Yeah. And I don't think they're ready to make another motion right now. No.
Okay. Is that appropriate now? Can we move on? Because we're already at 11 o'clock and I'm sure some of you have to go.
If you'll call a special meeting, if they say they need our help.
Yes, of course.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Anita. I mean this sincerely. You are a pain in my butt sometimes, but I really love you and I get where you're coming from on this.
Well, because you see those tents down there in Roberts.
Yeah. All right. So what's going on in Sebastopol? I think all of you know, or most of you know, that we were all set up to be in a lot back by the community center on Morris Street. That fell through and suddenly we're a whole different property up by the Lucky's and the Sebastopol Hardware. We were gaining the trust of the neighbors in the original site. We were having nice meetings and they were all cooperative and we were all working together to solve problems. Well, the new site hit people like a bomb. I mean, it just totally caused fear and anxiety and there was not a lot of time to have meetings. So there's just been a ton of comments. And one of the city council people is so concerned about the vitriol and the anger that she's actually having police come to our public meeting this Thursday night. Not to arrest anyone, but feeling like we just need to calm things down, and having police standing around would do that. I don't know if that's true or not, but that meeting is probably going to be a very dramatic meeting with a lot of hostility.
Oh.
And we invited all the people who have made comments, who've reached out to people. It's like 140 people. And I just invited them last night. So I'm expecting between 50, 75 people to show up at this meeting. It's at the community church from 5 to 7 on Thursday. I would really, really like you to show up and help us. We need people to sit at the door and, you know, put a sign-in sheet. We need people to hand out things. And then just to be a presence.
Do we have the address?
People are not.
Do we have the address?
Yes, I will give you the address in just a second. Yeah, so that's my plea. And if you know you can do it right now, would you please tell me so I can start to kind of divvy up the tasks? And I shouldn't say me, because Cynthia Poten has really taken the lead of organizing this meeting. So I see Barbara Lee and Gregory and Suzanne. Victoria. And Barbara Rinzulo and Kathleen. Great. That's a great group. Gregory, you wanted to say something other than this, right? Add on to it or something?
Yeah. If there's, and pardon me, but there's an alternate issue around the neighbors and the hyping of the neighbors to be, and the police. In addition to helping us set up this, RV parking space, the city council person you're talking about, I think, has an agenda to try to respond to the bigger issue in Sebastopol, which is banning everybody from Sebastopol streets. Basically the community said, I think, yeah, we'll let you set up a little parking thing, but it has to be coupled with wiping everybody else out in the city. Basically saying we're going to have a no parking anywhere, anytime. That's a little drastic, but that's really their motivation.
Gregory, would you speak up a little louder? We're having trouble hearing you.
The motivation of the neighbors
is unconstitutional.
Well, I'm just telling you that when you see 150
don't yell,
people,
don't yell, please. Now that you're closer, please don't yell into that.
Okay, I'm sorry. The motivation of those neighbors, hang on, please, 30 seconds. The motivation of those neighbors is to ban people from the streets. We are the vehicle for them doing it. We're just like Sam Jones. We're the excuse for them to be able to do it. And that bothers me a lot. So when you hear about police being there and you hear about neighbors wanting police, the neighbors want to tell the police to get rid of everybody. And they're using us as a vehicle for that. And it's really disappointing.
Gail.
Yes, I want to speak from experience, having dealt with SAY when they wanted to have the Dream Center. You can expect that this meeting will be very volatile, a lot of heated discussion. I hope there will be a second meeting. Maybe you can lobby for that in a few weeks. And at that point, at the SAY second meeting, a month later, t-shirts were handed out supporting the SAY Dream Center for free for everybody that walked into the group. And when we got inside the auditorium, we realized that most people had a t-shirt on, and that just quashed all the negative discussion, and the Dream Center has been a success. That's all I want to say.
That's great. That's a great idea.
Thank God we have your memory.
Yes. So this will be at the community church, which is at 1000 Gravenstein Highway North. If you know Sebastopol at all, it's the church that has the big sculpture of the ark on front, in the front of it. And Gregory and I have a little.
Is it the one that had the safe parking?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it the one? Is it the one that had the safe parking?
Yes.
Yes, they have 2 people. They're actually
and the AA meetings
now. What?
Yeah, and the AA meetings.
Yes, they're
it's
very
before Andy's Market. Yeah. Before Andy's
so
Market.
Gregory and I have a little different take on this councilwoman, and I have actually read a lot of the comments that people have, and most of them are not talking about citywide bans on homeless people. Most of them are concerned about their neighbors, the children, the needles, all the things you all can imagine. But there are a couple people who are really pushing this idea of a citywide parking ban. It will come up in front of the council. I don't know how the council members each feel about it. And I don't know how they're going to vote, but I plan to take this to the homeless people themselves, because this could be a trade-off. You know, you get your little lot, but everybody, all your friends are going to be swept out of Sebastopol. And of course it's illegal, but there are ways to do it, and cities do it mostly by saying overnight parking is illegal, or, you know, aggressively enforcing 72-hour parking limits, that kind of thing. So that's what I have to say. Kathleen.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about on the ground reports. We know about Los Gilicos, no problems. We know about Finley when it was a 6-month center, no problems. We have not checked with neighbors at Mary Isaac, neighbors of San Jones, but we don't ever hear about problems. But we have to. I don't know if that we can get information about this or not, but no problems seem to be arising in those places they're complaining about, the Azura, the Sebastopol, and we're not hearing any complaints. And that, the whole crux of the matter is when people have the hygiene they need, they don't need to use people's backyards. And when they have trash collection and needle disposal, then that's where that will happen, on site. So those problems can be expected to be eliminated. How do we convince those people?
And I would say that at the council meeting, Jack Tibbetts came and spoke and said that very clearly. And Tim Miller said it also very clearly. So we do have some of that out in the public realm. Suzanne. And then I think Eileen or Barbara. Both of you. Okay.
A couple of Sebastopol things. There's the regular Sebastopol City Council meeting is December 7th. So come and, I think that's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
At 6 p.m. I expect that there will be tons of public comment about this. I think it's an important one. And then the other thing, we do have the little peace garden that's near the community center. Jim Corbett, or also known as Mr. Music, told me we don't have to call him every time about it. We can just use it. We do a meeting for homeless residents and vehicle, homeless people. And those of us who are working on Moore Street present quite a bit. It's on Saturday, the 11th at 1 p.m.
Thank you, Suzanne. At
1 p.m. at where?
It's at the Peace Town.
The Peace Town.
Is that where
it's where we.
Is that where the wall is?
Victoria, it's exactly where you were at before. You were at that meeting before, which is near the community center. And it's like a small park that Mr. Music pays the money to have it, from the city. But he said we can use it any meetings we need to have before moving. And he doesn't.
Was that where you have the lasagna?
Yes, but we're not having food like that. We're just having cookies or something and water.
Forget it then. I'm not going.
Okay.
I'm joking.
Eileen and then Barbara.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, you already mentioned it, but I'm glad you asked Jack Tibbetts about his experience, because I think that's what tipped it in your scale, tipped the scale in your favor. I mean, yeah, so that was great.
Yeah, we asked him to come to this meeting and he said no on the grounds that people need to not be looking to him. They need to look to us. They need to see us as the authorities. So he will not be at this meeting. Barbara Lee.
You just answered my question.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
It is bad. I have to say it is really interesting, the white man thing. Boyish white men, and Patrick O'Loughlin is one of them and Jack is another. I mean, they're very different people and I don't mean to lump them at all, but people's perception of boyish looking white men who, can be articulate and all this, it's just astonishing. They get so much, they're just seen as authorities and people love them. I mean, literally it's affection kind of stuff. So
they get a lot of leeway. I get a lot of leeway.
That's right. Something like that. So, you know, it's really great that
Yeah,
Patrick is working with us so diligently. He's made a big difference for us.
Adrian, can I say something before the meeting ends?
Yes, you can. I think we're there.
Okay, because I feel bad because I'm criticizing myself in the revolutionary sort of way that's it's hard to do, you know. But I know, you know, that I'm still in recovery and I'm not healed, you know, fully. I don't know if I'll ever be able to heal fully, but I know this group has helped me a lot in terms of giving me responsibilities and giving me feedback and love. And I just appreciate that a lot. But I know that I come up with ideas and then I don't follow through enough. So I want everybody to have my phone number. I want Mila to call me about getting on the COC, that new committee they're doing for the lived experience. I know it has to be in by January 2nd. I'm criticizing myself. I've got to get over the Peace and Justice Center and see if we can still get Vera nominated for an award. I was supposed to do that, but they told me that it was had all the month of November to do it, and then I slipped up. But anyway, I'm criticizing myself for not continuing with the emergency warming tent question, and I plan to pick this up. Warming tent question with the staff of SAVES to see where they start, where we cut off. And also, that's why I brought all that up, because now I want something else. Now I want us to seek a volunteer or 2 or 3, and we could just do a loaf of sandwiches or 2 loaves of bread. Each volunteer prepare that sack lunches for our resource workers and our homeless action outreach workers to give to people, to open up conversation on the street with people. A lot of people give out food and they don't have any interest in follow-up, but we do. Anyway, I haven't seen that many people giving out food like they used to at the park, the churches, and everything.
Thank you, Victoria.
So I'm worried about food now. Thank you.
You know, you are a very good role model for a lot of people, Victoria, including me. Barbara Lee.
I was wondering if on Thursday night, if those of us who have SAVES t-shirts wore them. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
What SAVES t-shirts? What SAVES t-shirts?
We had some.
SAVES t-shirts?
I don't think we have any left in your size, but I'll check.
I fit all sizes because I'm from a big family.
What?
I fit all sizes because I'm from a big family.
Well, I think that they were basically for staff, and a few people managed to score one.
Okay, well, we can wear our sweeps t-shirts. We can wear our sweeps t-shirts.
Yes. All right, everybody. I think we have finished, and appreciate everybody today. It's been a really interesting meeting, and thank you for being your usual smart, articulate self when we had our guests. I always feel so proud when people come and see who we are. Alice, you had one more thing? One last thing?
Thank you. I just put a comment in the chat. You might not have had a chance to read it, Adrian, or others. I saw some t-shirts that just said YIMBY on them. They were a bright color, so they would stand out in a meeting. They were Kelly green, and they had just in bold white letters, YIMBY, yes, in my backyard, on them. And then those shirts could be used for all kinds of meetings, not just on any one particular issue. And to Gail's point about those t-shirts being handed out at a meeting in advance of the SAY Dream Center being built. Gail, I was wondering if those shirts were handed out for free, sure. And which would make it more effective, getting more people to wear them and take them. But even charging for people who can afford to pay and giving them away to people who can't. But I'm just advocating for having one t-shirt that can be used for lots of different occasions by just saying YIMBY on it. Thank you, Alice.
Can I just say that, Alice, you make excellent sandwiches and I wish you would volunteer.
There you go.
Oh, thank you. For what situation?
I'm going to cut this off because I have another appointment.
Okay.
Let's call each other and get clear on it. I think it's a great idea. Good teamwork there. All right, everybody.
Yeah,
See you later. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you back.